Hi guys, this is Hasi from Hezico, and today we're going to be creating an internal tool for our company. That's one of our clients. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward flow where we want to summarize what we have in our Slack channels. So for that, what we will do is in this video we will create a Slack app. We will set up a database. For this video, I'm just going to be using a Google Sheet. I won't be showing the internal database that we actually use, and we will be setting up the workflow. So for this to start, we will set up a webhook. What this does is basically gives us a way to connect with Slack. So for Slack bots, we generally need to give it a post request. So what is a post request is basically Slack sending data towards our webhook. So let's name this summary and no authentication, and let's give it a response. So this is our webhook which is created. Now let's create our Slack app. Create a Slack app, go into api.slack.com/apps where we will get this interface. Now we create an app from scratch. We can name it N8N bot, and let's select the workspace. Okay, so once the workspace is created, it will give us all of this information which we will use to authenticate our instance. So firstly, let's authenticate. Because we're using a local instance of N8N, we have to set up auth or unauth. So for that, we can come here, credentials, save, and we need to copy this. Paste it. This is a redirect URL. So basically, once we OAuth with Slack, it will redirect us back to our N8N instance. Save URL. Now that this is saved, we will take the client ID and client secret which we had over here. So copy, paste, and send client ID and secret. Connect to my account. So this will open a Slack pop-up. Doesn't have a bot to install. So we have to basically install on our workspace. So let's do that first. So let's install this. But before doing that, let's set up the permissions on this as well. So we want it to read the chats. We want it to check the channel history. We want it to channel read. We want commands. These are the permissions that we will need. If we need more, we will just add them on. So let's install it to our workspace. Okay, so once it's installed, we will now try to do the credentials again. So set them up again. Now that it's saying we will authenticate. So what we did first is install it into our workspace, which we will use to get the summary of messages from. And now we will connect it with N8N, so we can go back and forth between Slack. So once we allow, if you see this 404, this is pretty much a tunnel error. If you're hosting locally through Docker, this does happen. So for that to work, we just come in here, start a new instance. This is pretty much something that comes through. It becomes a pretty common error. So we open up a new tunnel, log back in. So we're back in. We will have to reset our credentials. So basically, the redirect URL changes because if you can see over here, our tunnel address has changed as well. So we're just gonna wait for it to load up. While that happens, we're just going to add. We can just change this redirect URL. Well, we will have to wait for this to load in. So Slack, I think it's there already, right? So we will copy this, paste it here, done, and save. The client ID and client secret remains the same, and we will try to connect to this again. Okay. Okay, so you can see the connection is now successful. Okay, so Slack is now connected to our account. We can go back to our webhook, and while that's loading up, we can now create a slash command. Now, what a slash command is if we can open up our Slack. So we're just gonna open up our workspace on the web because I'm currently just showing this video from the Chrome. It's not gonna browser. Okay, so let's create a new slash command while everything else loads. So we can call it summary, and this webhook basically becomes our entry point. So we can copy this, paste it here, summarizes, and we can say save. Now we have created the slash command. Also, we will have to enable interactivity. What this does is basically allows us to send those custom models on Slack and allows us to basically interact with them. So same thing here, we will copy and paste this endpoint. Now, like I said, I'm simplifying this process. Generally, I wouldn't use the same endpoint for both of these things. Like I would create a separate workflow for this interactivity, but for the sake of this video, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to keep it in a single video. So like I said, it does an HTTP post request, so does the slash command. So now that this is done, let's create a new channel on our Slack for the sake of this video. And say N8N bot test. Okay, so firstly, we will call our bot, and Slack bot will let us know if it's not in there. We can just add them. Now that the bot has been added, we will now just double check if everything else is set up properly. So we're gonna save these changes. These changes are saved, and in the slash commands as well. We see, yeah, everything looks good. Now to test if this webhook is working or not, we will just test the slash command. So we will listen for an event, which would mean is we will just execute the workflow, and it's now waiting for us to make that request. So if I do summary and press enter, okay, so you can see the workflow has started. This is the message that we get from our bot, and you can see that this works. Now, as I mentioned, we're using the same webhook for both instances. We're going to use an if prompt, and we're going to say what we get from this is if command equals to slash summary, execute step. So what this will do is see if we basically send it from this part, right? Once when we do a request from here, it means that this command was being used. So if it was being used, it will go to true, and if it was not being used, so this is where we will do our summary work. So if that's done, now we have to send a message to Slack, right, to inform the user that this is being done. So we will do what we will do is to create, to send a message, send and send to channel. We will get a list of channels after we've connected from a Slack. So the channel name is N8N bot test. So we can just do N8N bot test and it will load in the channel list. But like I said, with this custom tunnel running on Docker, it generally depends on how much resources you are giving to this instance. That's why you can see that it's currently a bit slow. Just wait for it. Just gonna re-add the block again and try again, just so. Slack, send a message, send a message to channel. Select the channel from this. Can we do it by ID? I think we can do it by ID. So this is the ID, I think. Oh, so we can just copy and paste this URL and hopefully this works. Right, okay, so for this let's just send a text message. So we can say text from bot and let's execute the step, see if this works or not. Yeah, I think it's the instance. So I'm just going to restart my N8N instance and we can try it. I think we can just go local for now. Okay, so I reset my instance again, and now we'll connect it with Slack to send a message to inform the user that the summarization process has been started. So firstly, we will test if the messages are being sent or not. So N8N test bot test. That's the name. Bot test. This is the one. Let's send a simple text message. So say let's test is running. Execute step. Okay, so if we come here, we will see that the test is running. Now, what we want to see send is a block. Slack gives us an option to create blocks. What those are is basically, if you see here, when we didn't have Slack bot in this chat, it gave us a block to give us buttons to choose if you wanted to add the bot or not. So we're gonna create something similar. We're gonna go to the block creator. Slack has this block creator that allows you to create new blocks. So in our block, what we need is basically, let's say, text, plain text. So this is a plain text block, or we can just add a button directly, and we can say press continue summarization. Say call this summarize. Now this basically creates that block. We will just copy it, come here to an intent. Instead of sending a message, we'll send a block, paste it, and execute that step again. So if we come here now, this will come through. So press continue summarization, and when we press this, it will summarize. Now, if we come here, if you notice in the start that I set the interactivity up to call the same webhook, right? And this if statement basically decides if we are using that command or not. So we're going to start, we're going to execute the workflow again. And while it's waiting for this to, while it's waiting for it to listen, right? We are going to press this button again. And you would see that this time it's false, right? This time we didn't press that button. So now what we will do is basically use Slack to summarize those messages and get the messages from the chat. Slack, and what we want is get a channel, get many, get history of a channel. So, and test. Test, I think. Okay, so let's just execute and see what this gives us. Listen, this should be working. Oh, I think our app doesn't have the permissions to get channel history, so we're just gonna do that. History, oops, history, view messages, and we will reinstall the app. So once we make these changes to our OAuth, we always have to reinstall the app. That's something you need to keep in mind. So we can execute the step, and still, I think I did add this history dot.
Okay, so now that our auth is working, we will just double check if everything goes through. So we will call the summary command again, and we will also just execute this workflow. While we do that, we try again, and this went through. So now that this is done, we will come here to see if the history is coming again. So we execute the workflow again, we press the summarize button, and this should work. Now, as you can see, we're getting 17 items from this, right? And the items look somewhat like this. So we want to clean up that, right? We want to clean up how they look. So for that, we'll use the edit fields, and in there we'll just map those fields to text and user. What it does is cleans up this into a proper JSON. So if we run this, we get this. Now, as you can see, we're still getting 17 items. So for that, let's just use the code module to just join this all. So we'll go const all items equals input.all. This will give us everything in the input. Now we want to map this. So we can say formatted text equals all items dot map. We map this to an item, and we can say const user equals item.json.user, and const text equals item.json.text. Then we can say return, and we want to return user, and we want to return the text. Okay, so once that's done, we will go through with this, and we want to return an array of JSON items. So this will do return, or we will say array, we will do this, and we'll say JSON, and we will do this, not this, but this, and we'll say full chat to, we also need to say full chat equals formatted text dot join. So we'll join everything inside of this. No, not like this, by and so this is basically a line break, and we'll say full chat. If we run this, we will get a singular full chat. So this is everything that's inside that channel. Now we will pass this to an AI agent, and we're still using Gemini. For this, you can use whatever works. Give me the complete summary . Give me the complete summary of this chat, and we can just do full chat. Now I can pretty much write a better prompt, but this is for the sake of this video, I'm just going to keep it short. We're going to execute this step, and we forgot to add the model. Let's add Gemini. That is there, and we will run this again. It's going to take its time. Okay, so if we come here, this is basically the chat, the summary of the chat. And now we want to store this into a Google Sheet. Append a row or update append row in a sheet. Okay, so now we need to connect our OAuth with Google APIs. For that, we will go to Google Cloud. Okay, so here you have to create a project, and I have already created a project, but for that I think we can just follow these steps, right? It wants us to create a project on Google Cloud, enable the APIs that we need, and configure OAuth. So my OAuth is already configured, and I can just do this, and then for the client ID I can pass in this, and I think for the client secret we just copy and paste. Now sign in with Google. It's the same as Slack. As you notice, we're on localhost. This is why it's not going to work. So I am going to go to my tunnel to try again. So we're just going to open my tunnel. So over here we can just save this so that we can just take our progress onto the tunnel instance. Like I said, when connecting with external APIs, you generally want to be on the tunnel because they don't recognize your local host. So let's just open this workflow. Okay, so we'll come back here. Over here, we'll edit, and we want to sign in again. I think it's not gonna work because, yep, redirect UI mismatch. Oh, I forgot to save. Yeah, so make sure you do that when you're working with OAuth, right? Try to save whenever you make changes. Okay, so we're gonna add this again. Copy, paste, save. And for some reason it doesn't want to do that. Yep, save. All right, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna delete this. We're gonna re-add our instance. We're gonna save. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so go here, come here. It's already there. It's enabled. We're gonna try again. Okay, so I just connected, and now we would see that this is working. Okay, so now we want to create a document on Google Sheet. So we'll just go Sheets. We'll go Google Sheets. Open the Sheets. Sign in. I'm already signed in. Hopefully, okay. So we'll just create a sheet, and we want to take this ID from the sheet. So we can just say chat database. This is the ID. We're going to do this. Okay, I think it's gonna sheet 1 map each column manually, no columns found in the sheet, map automatically. and we're gonna execute this step, and I think it wants me to do the API call again, so we're just gonna click on here and this should work. It's going to go through, and I think it's going to, yep. So if you come here, we can see our output. So this is the summary of our chat, and we can also send in the chat itself, right? So if we want, we can say okay, so what we want, we can, if we want the chat summary, we can add that as well. So this is pretty much the flow of taking the Slack channel and summarizing it into using AI and then putting it into a database. We've used Google Sheet for this instance, but you can use your own internal database. So this was me solving an internal company problem and showcasing what we can do with N8N.